Welcome to In Your Neighborhood. I'm Jennifer Wakeman. Our first stop today takes us to Timber Creek Turnings in Winfield, where Karl Henschel makes pens that are truly functional works of art.
It's in there. We kind of wait.
Woodworking runs in the Henschel family, so when Karl decided to start a business making designer pens in 2011, no one was really surprised.
My dad made toys.
Really?
He always made wooden toys growing up, and so I had different wooden toys, different things. He went to craft shows and sold them, and then he got into different carving and chip carving, and he passed away in almost 2 years ago. And I could have gotten all the toy patterns, but I just didn't have the passion for the toys. But I remembered somebody in my wife's family made pens, and I was able to get all the shop tools. I thought, I'm going to make pens.
The shop he set up in his basement features some of his dad's tools.
I got a lot of the shop tools that my dad had, got some of the wood, and just started from there. And I'm using his lathe that he had. It's from the 1950s, and it works great.
While his dad had passed on some basic woodworking knowledge, Karl had a big learning curve in the beginning.
I had never run a lathe, ever. So I got the tools around Thanksgiving, got everything in the shop, put it together, figured out what I needed to get the pens, and then turned the lathe on for the first time, and it was like, okay, here goes.
Today, Karl's shop has more than 100 different kinds of wood. In addition to traditional American hardwoods, there is Cocobolo rosewood, Buckeye burl, which has its own color variations, and even some woods that are artificially colored.
It's dyed box elder, box elder burl, so it's got the eyes in there, but then they dye it. This is blue, this one's a double dyed green, and the stuff that I've got now is just from all over the world now.
So you can buy them
I buy
as
them,
a blank.
most of them I buy like this. I can rip them down. I've got the tools to do it, but most of them I'll buy them as a blank like this.
As if that much variety in wood weren't enough, Karl also works with man-made materials.
These are acrylic blanks, so these are all different kinds of plastics. Pine cones in plastic, there's wood in plastic.
Wow!
Different colors.
If you're not doing wooden ones, you can do them this way as well.
If somebody wants something in plastic, they want, something. I had somebody wanted a pencil that was hot pink, really just in your face pink. So I found some, or like a real hot pink kind of thing. These are corn cobs that have been dyed, and they actually make a really cool pen. When you clean that off, you get the pockets, and then when you seal it, it looks really cool.
The variety is like unbelievable.
Gold. These are sweet gum balls put in acrylic. This is a Western Diamondback rattlesnake.
Okay, this looks like dinosaur DNA trapped in amber. I'm just saying. So if they find dinosaurs in Winfield, it's Karl's fault. He also uses corian. Yes, the same material they use for countertops. So you can turn this just like you would turn a piece of wood. I mean, it functions the same way.
Same setup.
It's not just wood. I mean, you can do anything.
I could do anything. I also do corian.
If you can turn a corn cob, that's pretty impressive. I gotta say, if you can turn a corn cob, that's cool.
It comes out, it's pretty cool. And then I've done corian.
Like the countertop?
Yeah. It polishes like glass.
Not only does Karl have a wide variety of materials, but he also offers pens of all types, from ballpoint to rollerball to fountain pens. Just take a look at the selection he can create. So how does a simple blank become one of these pens? Karl took us through his process, and it all starts with the hardware for the pen, called a kit.
I stay with really good kits. There's some Chinese kits I don't use those.
The type of kit determines the style of pen. The general assembly is sort of the same, but the kit sort of determines whether it's
two-piece or single piece, how large or small the blank is. I did some new ones that stand up, so the bottom needs a 1-inch blank or a really large blank. So then you've got to decide if you're doing, like these are for a specific kind, relatively small diameter.
Oh, okay.
And then if you're doing like this one would be a smaller diameter, like for this style of pen also. it
Right.
would work.
So some
so
of the
different-
kits aren't going to necessarily fit.
Won't
in
work with
because
every-
You've got a skinnier blank to begin with.
That's right.
So the first thing to do is select a kit.
In this case, I've got a Sierra kit. So then I need to get the tube for it, cut the blank to the correct tube size. It's a little bit longer, then drill it out.
For 2-piece pens, the blank is cut in half before drilling and marked so that the grain will match when the pen is assembled. Once the blank is drilled, the tube is inserted.
Got to rough up the tube, sand it, and then glue it inside. That'll sit and dry, and then while that's drying, then I go off and do other stuff. So I never really go.
You don't
And
do one
do-
thing from beginning to end. 'Cause
No.
It's already, yeah.
And once the tube is in there, then you've got a tube in there. These have the tube in. Then you go back to the drill and just mill the end of it so it's all flat. You got a good flat surface. Then
Got it.
when that's all done, it goes over to the lathe. You line it up, and there's a set of bushings that go with it that give you the right diameter. These then are the bushings. This just so it's like a template or a pattern. So then that'll set up what size to go. And since they're half blanks, you could do 2 at once.
When making a 2-piece pen, both halves are turned at the same time. Here, Karl is turning 2 separate acrylic blanks. Once the blanks are secured on the lathe, the turning begins.
See how those ribbons were coming?
Yeah.
That's what you want to get is those little ribbons. If it starts chipping down here, that's not good because then it's going to catch and take a big piece out. So you're working to get that little ribbon coming.
Does wood do the same thing, or does wood come off a little different?
Wood will go, but you want nice, steady, small chips, not big chunks coming off.
More turning is done until Karl is satisfied with the shape and appearance. Then it's time for the finishing process.
I'll sand now to 600, and then these pads are 1,000 grit, and then they have these smaller pads that go all the way up to 12,000 grit in sequence. So you just keep going with each pad.
So you just keep working it a little bit.
Yep. Till it's right. So it's more than just put it on here and get a shape and then it goes, because now the finish becomes everything.
Right.
And then with the wood, it'll get sanded, and I'll polish it with a set of wood ones for that. But then there's a finish using the same glue that I use to glue the tube in there. I have a thin and a medium one, so I'll use those to start a coating over it, just to seal the wood.
Here is just the first sanding on the acrylic.
But I'll just have to go back to a lower grit and then clean it back up. I'll get that black line out of there.
Oh, is that what that's from when it
Yeah.
gets warm?
Yeah, feel it.
Oh
It's
my,
getting too
yeah,
hot.
it is hot. Look at that. But that's amazing.
From what you started
that
with.
funky looking little square of acrylic.
And then
That's-
you keep going with the grit. Now that's at 400, and then I'll keep it at 600, and then 1,000, and then I'll do those little pads from
Right.
1,500 to 12,000.
Wow. So really there's almost more time in the finishing part than there is just getting it down to that shape.
Yes, yeah, because
Yeah.
and at the end that's everything, because that's what you're looking at. And on the wooden ones, I try to get a finish that's durable and looks shiny and looks good. But as one person said, they commented on my finish versus some other finish, it doesn't look like a basketball court floor.
And now here's the final product. This is the completed red acrylic pen, as well as the Coca-Cola rosewood pen we saw drilled and glued. Karl has created many commemorative pens for his customers. One gentleman brought him what he described as a bag of sticks.
It was some oak, but it's just kind of plain. But It was from a church in Milton that they closed. They had 3 churches combined to 2, so this one wasn't used. But he got the pews.
Oh, wow.
So the wood was over 100 years old, and he wanted like commemorative pens for the parishioners. And one of them, I guess his mom had sat on every Sunday for 85 years. So I made about 2 dozen pens out of the oak from the church pews.
He has even made a pen out of a broken family heirloom.
Somebody brought in a gun cleaning rod. He had it was his grandfather's, and it was ebony from 1870s. And the kids lost the top half. So he had this handle just sitting there in the corner, and he's like, what do I do with this thing? So he brought it in and said, can you make a pen for me? Timber
Creek Turnings has an online presence, but the company got a boost after some creative marketing by Karl's son, Ethan.
My son had put an article on Imager.com. It's a photo site. And he took pictures from my Facebook. I have a marketing page. Just put pictures up of the pens and stuff. And he took that and made a collage, put it on Imager, and the thing went viral. Over the weekend, there was like 15,000 people had seen it, and over 6,000 had came over to my Facebook page. So I went from 32 people that liked me locally, or friends and relatives, to 400. And all of a sudden, there was like 2,500 people were looking at pictures of pens, and I got calls. I shipped pens after that to Australia, to Canada. Woman in Denmark ordered a pen for her boyfriend.
That's so cool.
So now I've been sending them around the world and across the country.
For Karl Henschel, making custom pens is a lot of fun.
And that's the big part for me for these, is people using them for their gifts for the most part. Some people buy them for themselves, but most of the time they're a gift for somebody, and then they've picked something out that was special and meaningful, or for me to help them pick something a combination that would be meaningful.
When he's not making pens, Karl is a senior engineer at Conagra Foods, but it's clear in talking to him that pens are his passion. Don't you think that if you're going to do something, because this is not your regular job, I mean, you work all day, so you do this in your spare time, and it darn well better be something you feel passionately about,
I love it, and I can spend hours down here getting ready for the show. I took the week off, and then I was making pens. It's like a full-time job, but it was a blast. I loved it.
You can see more of Karl's designs and contact him online at timbercreekturnings.com or visit his Facebook page. Coming up, we're learning about one of my favorite things, coffee. Stay tuned.